When we learned about the piano roll editor, we learned how to edit and create MIDI notes. But what about continuous controller messages like pitch shifting and modulation? These can be edited as well in the piano roll editor using mididraw. Let's take a look at the first lead synth 1 region in this song. Notice it has some vertical gray lines in it. These gray marks symbolize that this region contains continuous controller MIDI data as well as the notes that we see horizontally. Let's option click this to open it up in the piano roll editor window. So now we see just the MIDI notes here. We don't see any evidence of any continuous controller messages. So let's change that. This small icon next to the View menu is our mididraw view. Once I select that, all of a sudden we see all this data down here, and that's our continuous controller data. We can also resize this window just by clicking in the middle and pulling it down so we can see both our MIDI notes and our continuous controller message data right together. So what is this stuff? I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And what are we looking at here? Well, on the left, it tells us what we're looking at. We're looking at modulation. So this is the mod wheel on our MIDI keyboard. And as this part was performed, the mod wheel was moved up and down at different times. Now, the mod wheel on a keyboard can be mapped to different things in the software instrument. Let's hear this to see what it sounds like. I'm going to click the little play button up here in the top. So it sounds like the mod wheel, when it gets higher in value, is actually connected to both a filter, which is opening up the filter, and an LFO, because it kind of gets a little squiggly at the end of each note as it gets higher. So that's how this mod wheel was used, and we can see the values that have been written in there. So mididraw view is really cool because we can go in here and we can edit these nodes. These little dots are nodes in the performance. So we can actually just grab hold of these and pull them up or down and make edits to them one at a time. You notice there's a lot of nodes because this was performed in real time. Another cool thing is if you grab hold of a node and you pull it, say, to the left, it just sort of gets rid of any nodes that were in there and you could make your own shape. But if I pull it back to the right, Logic remembers what was there to begin with and pulls it back to where it was. So that's what you can do with your pointer tool and editing these nodes. Also, if you double-click on a node really quickly, you can delete it. Click once again to create a new node. There's also other tools. The pencil tool is really awesome with these nodes. My pencil tool is my current alternate tool. So if I hold Command, I get the pencil tool. Now I can just draw in different values. As you can see, I'm just drawing shapes. I can also hit T to get our tools menu. And I can choose, for example, the eraser tool, and I can just start erasing nodes, as you see what I'm doing here. There's also some other cool tools in here. For example, there's the Automation Select tool. If I choose that, I can drag a selection around a whole bunch of nodes. And then if I go back to my regular tool, I can edit these all together collectively, so I can pull them up or down. You also might have seen the Automation Curve tool. This is a cool one because if I click between two nodes and I pull up, it creates a nice curve. If I pull to the left or right, I can get an S-curve too. So you can really fine-tune all of your mididraw automation here using these tools and this view. And the cool thing about it is when we're in the piano roll editor, we can see the notes and the corresponding modulation, in this case, mididraw information right below that. There's some other things we can do in the mididraw mode view here, and that is to look at velocity. So I'm going to click in the menu to the left here. Notice there's a whole bunch of other values that may not be pertinent to this instrument. For example, sustain pedal. There is no sustain pedal written into this MIDI file, but if there was, we could see it here. But one thing I want to show is note velocity. So I'm going to click that, and now you see kind of an interesting view. Remember, in the main piano roll editor, note velocity we can see by the note color, and also the little line in between the note. The longer the line is, the higher the velocity. But here we see velocity in sort of a more vertical way. We see these little nodes, and depending on where they are, with this scale of 0 to 127, that's the velocity of our note. So I can grab hold of this and just pull it down, and I can change that velocity. As you can see, I'm just pulling it down that way. Another cool thing we can do, if I zoom out a little bit here, is select all these notes, for example, Command A, and just draw a horizontal line, and all the velocities of those notes will go up to meet that line. Then I can collectively just pull down, and I can edit all of these together. Another thing you can do is once you have all the notes selected, we can just pull this velocity value up or down. It's just another way to visually see velocity and control velocity You can do more than one note at a time as we're doing here, but it might be useful here to see velocity in a more vertical view rather than just by color or by the length of the bar inside each note. Then at any time we can go back to a different view, so we can go right back into our modulation view. So the MIDI draw is a pretty flexible view you can have inside your piano roll editor. And the power of it is that you can see your notes and your controller messages or your velocity at the same time.